The Private Label Pod with your host Paul Mooney, brought to you by Private Label People.
You just listen and leave the rest up to us.
Welcome to the Private Label Pod. I'm your host Paul Mooney. In order to run any business and in order to be an entrepreneur, there are three very important things you just got to have. That is drive, focus and determination. Without these things, you're really going to struggle to succeed. One of the most driven people I know is Robert Rickey. So here he is talking about exactly how he remains so driven, so focused and so determined.
Get involved, have your say, ask us a question or leave us a voice message by heading on over to privatelabelpeople.com/podcast.
Hi Robert, how are you?
I am very well, Paul. I'm very upbeat and I hope you are too, although it doesn't really sound so.
No, I was just luring people into a false sense of expectation that this was going to be a very slow moving thing, but it's not. It's going to be upbeat and brilliant.
And really fast and spoken with two East Belfast accents that nobody can understand exactly what we're saying.
Exactly. I was listening back to one the other day and I went, I need to speak a bit slower, so I'll maybe do that. But how have you been? What's your focus this week?
Focus this week is mainly around getting other people focused. It's a bit of a paradox. But yeah, what we've certainly seen is a lot of the builds inside, I guess you would call it reporting, that we are doing. Any of the manifestations of the data that are coming through, which is really the report, is showing not just us, but the partners involved, a lot of really crucial data inside their business. And unfortunately, there also then seems to be people who are maybe just lagging behind a little bit through time, knowledge, whatever it may be, to get the data that actually feeds that report that then manifests the outcome. So the focus really is on, say, getting them focused, getting them drilled into getting this data, and if so be it, if it takes us to go out one at a time, hey, that's what has to be done, preferably in a group setting, which we've already done this week. But yeah, sometimes it takes you to knock the door of the direct message to people and say, hey, where's this data, my friend?
I don't know why you're looking at me so so aggressively there.
Yeah. I shouldn't be holding this stick either, sure shouldn't.
Yeah, when you say trying to get people to focus, I think you mean me. Just on that, in your mind, you're very clear-minded, you're quite an analytical person, so you probably find that really easy in terms of focusing on things, and you have a structure in your mind of what you need to do. Do you draw it out, or is it just always in your mind and you work through it?
A little bit of both. I think primarily it's always in my mind. And I often struggle whenever people don't have that because I can't understand it. So, whenever somebody has a lack of focus, that really, it kind of throws me off because I can't understand why. And that's on me. More so than it is on them. But I think then it's like, I'd always kind of ask myself, it's like, are they trying to focus or are they not really bothered? And that can create a little bit more disparity for me. If they're just not trying, then we've got issues.
Yeah. You want to be in here looking out.
You're on the outside looking in, on the inside looking out.
When you said there, are you trying to? I thought you were going to say something else. Are you trying to this up? Yeah, which is pretty much the same thing when somebody can't focus.
It pretty much is, yeah. There's definitely there's an anagram in there or an acronym, inside that for sure, which I will come up with later on today. Because you've got all the right letters there for that. So focus could mean, would you ever get focused? Or it could mean something else.
It could, yeah. Well, it took us enough time to remember what Oscar stood for. So
yeah, absolutely.
Same about the letters. Yeah, I can imagine somebody like you would find that hugely frustrating when you have to work with somebody like that. And but it's sort of, that person also needs somebody like you to bring them back around and to say, look, you really need to focus in on this. With that, so it's a key element of being an entrepreneur, being successful in business. What are the other key things that are sort of similar? Would you say the likes of having a drive, having a determination to succeed? Would that be similar?
Yeah, in terms of being a business owner, and I would definitely separate those two things. I don't think anybody really has taken that separation between entrepreneur and business owner. You can be a business owner and not be an entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur is something completely different. I think over the years and society and social media and all this sort of stuff, and even the mediums in which this podcast is going out, they have merged those two words in together, and they're different, right? Entrepreneur comes from, I think it's either Latin or Greek, but it comes from risk taker, right? And you can be a business owner and not be a risk taker, right? So you can be a business owner and not be an entrepreneur. But you can have entrepreneurial traits. I think the vast majority of business owners have entrepreneurial traits, because if they have their own business, they have in a way taken some form of risk. Whether that is, and I'm not knocking anybody who's done this, I think it's fantastic, but if they've kind of bought their own job, and I'm thinking more about tradesmen, and that's the easiest example to use. So if you have a plumber or a spark, which is an electrician, thought I'd clarify that for our global audience. But if you've got a plumber or a spark, and instead of working for another company, they've gone out and set up their own business and done their own work, are they entrepreneurs or are they business owners? I think they're more business owners. And they have an element of entrepreneurial trait, which is, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to go and find my own work, to go and find my own clients, do that work, rather than look at their phone at 9 a.m. in the morning and say, where has my boss, in inverted commas, got me to go to do plumbing or some sort of electrical work. So separating those two words, I think, or those two phrases is important to start with. And I think the question, which I've sort of semi-forgot now, Paul, was around what other things do entrepreneurs require, that sort of determination. I think that determination thing is like, for me, it's like having the ability to grind as well. You know, whenever, it's very, very easy whenever things are rosy, and you know, you've been in that position before a number of times. It's not so easy whenever, you know, the shit hits the fan sometimes. And that's when you need to have that grind, and you've got to be analytical, as you mentioned earlier, and really look past the bad piece and try and figure out, when does this start coming around and what do I have to do in order to make this happen? Whereas if we don't analyze it, don't look at it, it just continues to get worse. And then that type of person then starts blaming the company and not blaming themselves. Whereas the people who can do it, the ones with the more entrepreneurial traits, they're able to look past that, put a plan of action into place, and I guess it brings us right back around, full circle, to the word focus.
Yeah, absolutely. And with an Amazon business or a private label business, there are so many things that can happen that can really take you to grind hard and to be determined to get through. I mean, obviously, if you're working with the likes of Amazon and your account suspended or whatever it might be, waiting on a shipment coming, all of those things that you're sitting getting really frustrated. You know, in your mind, you feel like you're running out of time, you're running out of options. How do you stay determined? Do you just think of the bigger picture? Do you think of what it's going to look like when it's successful, or do you do something else? Do you maybe draw it out in a different way and think of contingency plans?
I think it's more about, you know, what's the reason, or what's the why? You know, why are you doing this? And the greater the why is going to give you greater determination. You know, if you've got a why, which is to set up financial freedom for your family and your kids, that's a pretty big why, rather than I want to make a few bucks on the side. So those two different people are going to have different determination. If you come up with a problem, let's say, or an issue, whether it is account suspension, whether it's a supplier stopped speaking to you, whether it's that a product has stopped getting any sessions, or it's US. But there's hundreds of things that can crop up. But the person's why will determine A, when they're going to fix that problem, B, how much determination, how much resource they're going to put in to fixing the problem, and ultimately how quickly they're going to fix that problem. So if that why is very, very high, it's a strong why, they're going to get onto that problem right away. And they're going to put all of their effort into it. They're going to grind that out. They're going to have the determination. They're going to be focused on that one particular task and get it completed. Whereas the person that's looking for a bit of a side hustle, it doesn't matter as much. Yeah. I think that is the determining factor of how much determination you will actually have.
Yeah, it's a good point. A lot of people that are doing this, it is a bit of a side hustle to them, maybe with a view to it becoming their permanent hustle. But it's always easy for them to say, as you said there, well, it's not my fault, it was somebody else's fault. It was Amazon's fault, or it was the shipping.
It's also that thing, people talk about this fear of failure. And I'm coming more and more around that it's not a fear of failure, it's a fear of success. Which people will then say, oh, well, that's nonsense. That's just absolute nonsense. Why could you ever be afraid of success? Well, I'll flip it around and say, well, if you've had failure for a long time, why are you afraid of it? I'm not afraid of failure. I've had loads of failures, right? It's like pretty much every day you have some form of failure. I'm not afraid of it. I now accept it, and actually not even accept it, but expect it. So there's no fear there, but I do feel it's like people have this thing, this fear of success, and I haven't quite worked out all the points of it, but I think it's to do with the Joneses, as the expression would go. It's kind of like, what will this person think of me whenever I'm successful? Or will I change whenever I am successful? Or they will not put whenever, they will put if in there. Right? So they're already creating doubt in their own mind. Whereas, somebody who wants to do that and wants to have that success, it doesn't have to change you. And also, even if it does, if that's the type of person you are, who cares about the Joneses? Like, who cares what that person thinks about you? So therefore, if you've got that in your mind, then I do feel like you've got this fear of success, which then comes into not going all in, not focusing on the task at hand, treating it as a side hustle. If you treat it as a side hustle, that's all it will ever be at its height, right? So if you're thinking that that's what it is, that's your ceiling. Whereas, what is the ceiling? You look at the statistics on what is sold on Amazon on a monthly basis. It's off the chart. It's in the billions. That's the ceiling, right? You don't need anywhere near that. You just need a very, very small slice, but there is no real ceiling. So whenever you start thinking about that there's no ceiling to where or how successful your business, which it is a business, it's not a side hustle, where that can go, then that also says to me that there's no ceiling to what you should be determined to go, plan, execute, and of course, brings us right back around to the word focusing on your business.
It's funny you should mention that. It's just what you were talking about there. It's almost a fear of making a fool out of yourself. And it seems to be, the more I see people, especially in North America, they don't really have that so much. But in this country where we're from, it's almost like a thing where people look down their nose at you, or you're afraid of what they might think, or it's like, oh, he does live streams, oh, he does webinars, because it's foreign to them. But if you said to them, well, I'm a police officer, or I work in a cafe, it doesn't get their back up the same way. They just go, oh, right, okay, oh, nice one.
Yeah, there's a level of acceptancy in society that, as you said, like police officers, lawyers, doctors, accountants, civil servants are
the worst people in the world.
Yeah, but they are weirdly accepted by society a whole lot more, because I feel it's that they're not threatening, and everything else is there. Like business owners, like we look at the way society thinks of business owners, and in my opinion, which I'll be called a conspiracy theorist or a tinfoil hat wearer, whatever, that's fine. I'm well versed at that. But I think it's been programmed by the likes of governments and whatever else to put this into society, that business owners are A, tax dodgers, which is an absolute joke, and B, sort of serialized by a program that we grew up on in the UK called Only Fools and Horses. And the expression is that they're Dale boys, right? Which means that they're fly-by-night scammers, traders. They're, making money from somewhere else, but they're looking for a fast pound or a fast dollar, I guess, in a global sense. So these things have been put out, that all business owners are like that. Unless, weirdly, they get to a certain level, let's say like Richard Branson, Elon Musk, this level, in which case then they're idolized. It's a complete and utter paradox. Those guys and every other person had to start somewhere. Richard Branson started by starting a record store business, a music store business. And it was a very, very simplistic business, but had the drive, had the entrepreneurial spirit, had a lot of traits, and built something like his brand Virgin from like literally nothing. So that's the way that he would have been thought of back in the day. And now I believe he's a sir, but he's also thought of as a national treasure, which a complete and utter paradox.
Well, as the theme tune to Only Fools and Horses goes, no income tax, no VAT, but I know you've just said there that that's definitely not the case with self-employed people, business owners.
No, completely not, and they are the ones that pay the most, and especially with the likes of your VAT, you're paying that all the time, and it comes as a bill. It's almost, you can go to sleep and work for somebody else and get your pay slip whenever all that's been taken out. You're paying up front, but don't forget businesses. They're not just paying income tax to their employees. They're paying VAT. They're paying corporation tax. They're paying a hell of a lot. And even, we talk about Amazon. They're always in the news about, tax evasion and different things like this. Go and look at what they actually pay. It's off the chart. Right, absolutely off the chart. And just because they're able to use the rules that government set, and they have lots of employees that go and look at these rules, does that make Amazon wrong, or does that make the government wrong? I'll let people answer that.
Well, draw it to a close there, because I know you need to go and look at your tax return.
Yeah, I've got another check to write back to the 90s. But I think, finalising this back around in terms of focus, I did actually make some notes because I knew that you were going to be speaking about focus, and kind of like channeling the inner Tim Ferriss from 4 Hour Workweek. He talks about different things like that inside books, but it also kind of aligns with a lot of what I've been saying. And there's 8 points here, which I'm not going to go into detail on, but I'm just going to read them out. Number 1 is setting clear goals. If you got clear goals set, you're going to have focus. Without them, there's no focus. Developing a growth mindset, so not just looking at keeping things the same, the status quo. We're looking for growth always, not just in the business, but also in our minds. Prioritizing tasks. Not all tasks are created equally. Some are bigger, some are more urgent. Make sure to prioritize the urgent ones urgently and the bigger ones first. You've heard the expression, eat that frog. It's like, don't leave the bigger task to the end of the day. It won't get done. Tackle it at 8 a.m. or whenever you start your day. Practice mindfulness. That's just literally taking, it can be a number of different things. Some people like meditating, some people like doing yoga. All of these things are good, but even taking 15 minutes and just allowing your brain to breathe, give yourself some thinking time is really what mindfulness is. Staying committed. as another big one. Every single day, shake yourself off, get committed again, recommit if you need to. Number 6 was seeking support. Don't try and do absolutely everything on your own. Focus is hard enough without not having somebody there as an accountability partner or somebody you can ask a question to. Celebrating progress, big one. Not enough people celebrate the small wins. You take a week and you've done all of your tasks or nearly all of your tasks. Go out with your spouse, partner, friend. Go for a beer, go for a steak, go for whatever it is that you can regard as a small win and reward. And finally, visualizing success. Now, there's a number of different ways that this has been said over the years, vision boards and this, that, and the other. I'm not here to criticize any of them. I don't really believe in that whole thing of if you just think it will happen, right? But there's certainly an element of visualizing what the end result looks like. That will help you with point number 1, which is setting your clear goals. But visualizing and setting out the idea, or ask yourself the question, what does success look like?
Okay. Well, I think that's a question everybody can ask themselves. One last very quick question. Everybody has tired days where maybe they haven't slept well or they've just worked so hard during the week. What do you get tired days? You never look that tired, to be honest. You just always sort of look ready to go. But
I'm a Renaissance man, Paul.
I certainly get them, and sometimes you go, oh, God, I need to do something to get me to really kick on here. Is there anything that you do specifically to get you through a tired day, or do you just motor on through it?
Well, I'll make a decision is the big thing, and I think what people do, I can't speak for the majority. I don't get a lot of those days, but what I do is I make a decision. Am I doing this or am I not? And if I'm not doing it, then I go all into not doing it. I just stop and I say, this is a day off. I don't beat myself up about it. I work hard, and if that does happen, then I say, this day is off. I will sit in front of the television. I will bring out the Xbox. I will do whatever it is, and I'll just have a day off. The brain will always be ticking, but I'll have a day off whenever I make that decision. Or the decision is, you've got stuff to do. You need to get it done. Get focused, get determined, grind your way through the day, get to 5 p.m, and then you can stop.
Yep, there you go, folks. Even if you have your tax return to do, it can't be a tired day. You're just going to have to get on and do it.
That may be the tiredest of days that we ever have.
Thank you, Robert, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Get involved, have your say, ask us a question, or leave us a voice message by heading on over to privatelabelpeople.com/podcast.
Thank you for running us through what keeps you in that focused zone, Robert. I hope everyone listening was able to retain their focus. Hopefully this sees all our members go forward with further drive and further determination. As ever, folks, let us know what you thought of the podcast below in the comments, and we will see you again soon.